What's up, everybody? This is Zach with the Nerd Cave, and I'm joined along with the man, the myth, the legend,
Derek Daniel.
Derek. I'm glad to have you along, buddy. How you doing,
Glad
man?
to be back. I'm fantastic. How are you? We
I'm
haven't
doing
done
excellent.
this in what? When was the Ubisoft? No,
I don't want to
Ubisoft-
remember. I don't want to remember the Ubisoft conference. I said
think
we're
it
going
was
to be
September.
positive. I said we're going to be positive today, Derek. We're going to be positive.
Look, there's a difference between being nostalgic and positive. I'm trying to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, because we planned to do. I want to say it was like a PlayStation conference or something. It was
Yeah,
a
it was like
state of play.
Yeah, it was a state of play where they actually showed off the release and price of the PS5.
Yeah, and it was Hurricane came in that through that day.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that.
Yep. Yeah, so it was like, yeah, I can't do that. So, but guys, we hope that you're doing awesome. This is kind of like an experiment thing.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out a formula to a possible show and everything with me and Derek, and talking about games and all the cool stuff that are involved with games and kind of the news and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, let us know down in the comments below. And if you got any suggestions on some names, let us know, because I don't know what the name of this might be. So
TBD.
Yes. Shuhei Full of Grace is what is the current name. Possibly that's the current name. Shuhei Full of Grace. It'll be
a sad day when he completely leaves PlayStation.
Don't shh. I will hire him, and he will. He's like, dude, you're paying me way less than I've ever made. Just like, it's okay, Shuhei. You've got the grace for this. So let's get the show started. Let's talk about the highlights from 2020. All the good things.
There were a lot, but there were some good moments.
There were some good moments, and these are going to be kind of like our personal highlights of 2020. Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff that's went on and everything. We're not going to focus on the bad guys.
Right.
But some good things that came out of 2020. I'm going to start off. Ghost of Tsushima. My Lord.
That exactly where I was going. Like that game to me was the perfect, like I know everyone's going to say because it won Game of the Year awards that Last was Part 2, and it was a great game. Obviously not content for this channel, but great game. I know there was very divisive in terms of how it was handled and all that kind of stuff, like in terms of story, but Ghost was the perfect I shouldn't say nail in the coffin because that makes it sound bad, but the perfect, cherry on top of the sundae that was PlayStation 4.
Oh, yeah.
And that life cycle. And it was and it highlighted the breadth and the chops these first party studios have to expand out of the realm. Because, from the PS3, right, you had Guerrilla, just known as the Killzone studio. Yep. Naughty Dog, just known as the Uncharted studio. Sucker Punch, which did Ghost of Tsushima, just known as the Infamous studio. Guys, and they had done two. They had done two Infamous games to start off the console life cycle. And you see when they took it in a whole new direction, like Guerrilla went from shooter to RPG with Horizon. Yep. Naughty Dog went more post-apocalyptic, story-driven narrative with Last of Us. And then Sucker Punch went from the superhero flashy action to make this authentic, true-to-life samurai game. And it was fantastic.
It was amazing because not only did we get a game that is, a samurai's tale and everything, that had, the visual elements, that had, the music, but it's true to form. Like they put in the time and effort to go over to Japan and study the culture, go over there, have consultants and everything, the music being, accurate to the time, and the clothing options, like everything, and even making it where the dyes and everything, and even making the decision to not have a mini map and not to have that normal kind of hood system that most games have, but letting the elements of the world guide you, from the foxes to the wind to the birds. Like those decisions, chef's kiss, man. Those are amazing.
Yes. and it was. I don't want to say, I don't want to be too loose with the term original, but it was original for like a Sony first party game. You know, I know Assassin's Creed had dabbled with it a little bit. It's like, hey, turn off your mini map, turn off your indicators, just use context clues in the world and talk to the people in the world to find out where you need to go. And Ghost took it to a whole new level. It's like, hey, we want to show you where this hot spring is. Let's have this hummingbird take you. Or like, hey, you want to know where your next mission objective or like your next marker objective is, follow the wind. You want to find out the shrine to increase like another charm slot on your character, follow this fox, who's actually turns out to be your spirit animal for the game. But just using little hits, and to touch on the music too, like just finding like the different like locales and like different music hit it. Like what was it? The Shrine of Honor, like having that little like, I don't know what you like, sitar or like whatever you want to call it, like just have that play in the background when you find it, is just like, it just adds more to that world.
Yeah, and it's not like stereotypical and all of that, but it even goes a step further, and I don't know how much you've played around with it, but it has like the old school like samurai option, like where it's like super stormy and it's black and white with like the filters and everything, and then even a step further where they have the whole Japanese cast doing the voices and everything, and it's like the amount of detail and love that was poured into that game, like it's just, I haven't even finished it yet, guys. I'm gonna just be honest, I haven't finished it yet, but it's still amazing. It's so good. I haven't
played Legends, but I've platinumed it, so I've done everything in that world that needs to be done. So it was just a blast, and and it goes back to like, again, trying not to use the term masterclass loosely in this context.
Oh no,
but this definitely was if you wanted to teach a masterclass on how to make settings and period pieces authentic, this is the game to show them, because like you said, that even the English actors had that authentic Japanese and Asian accents. They got the actual Asian actors to come in and do this right, and then like the Japanese voiceover pack prime movie like textures and like and then this was the perfect textbook game for photo mode as well. I know photo mode has been like a prominent thing in Sony first party games, but this was like, with the different color palettes to the entire map, this was definitely the perfect game to like, hey, you want to show off your photo skills, here you go.
Yeah, and like with the photo mode, it's like, okay, you want the leaves or do you want the like the flower petals like falling and everything? Like the options were, there was so much, and like I even like going a little bit further, like with the options, like I'm not big into like gore and blood anymore. Like that's just not, that's a choice that I personally make. So that is an option in the game that you can turn that off. So it's like, I know like when I started playing the game, I'm like, man, I don't know like how far I can get into this game, because it's like you hit somebody with a sword and then it's like someone's like standing with a 5-gallon bucket, like Carrie style, just waiting to throw it on you. But you can turn that option off, and then you've got an experience that you could still enjoy and not have and I even think there's like a filter for some of the more cuss words and everything. I think you can turn that on as well, but I like that games now are doing more of those options, because like not everybody wants to see blood and gore, and like even Gears 5 had that option. I love that as well. And like like some people don't want to hear vulgar words over and over and over again. So
especially if you have kids.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're being conscious of those things. So I love those options in the game, but it's amazing. If you haven't played it, come on guys, you need to get it. It is like, for me, it's my game of the year. I didn't play many new games of the year, but it's my game of the year.
To wake up, I'll flop between Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost for me. Like I know they were nominated for the Game Awards, both in that category. So, and honestly, no matter which one it was going to be down between one of those two. And if either one of those had been won, I wouldn't have been mad, because it was both of them were deservedly, deserved of it.
Yeah, they definitely were. So what is kind of a highlight for you that's not Ghost? What's something that you looked forward to?
just the launch, like through all the bad 2020 gave us, like that still like the fact that these developers were still able to get out games
Yeah.
and like that we enjoy the best quarantine game when this whole mess started. Animal Crossing, you know,
Oh
and I
yeah.
didn't play it. It's not my game, but that set the world, you know, that pretty much broke records for Nintendo.
Yeah, like we got it around Christmas. I got it for Amy for Christmas, and I know people have been playing it since it launched, and it was like the perfect storm timing and everything. But playing that game, it is so good. Like the amount of detail that is in that game, the art style, everything. Like, yes, it's like, oh, well, that's Animal Crossing. No, like there is so much to that game, but it's also simple.
Yep.
That's the thing. Like it's so simple, but it also has so much depth and detail, and it's like it's mind-boggling how good it is. And like, you know, getting to customize everything, getting to make your home, all of these cool things, like I really enjoy that because like
Getting to go to other people's islands.
yeah, getting to go to people's islands and everything, and just, you know, finding new characters to like come onto your island and everything, building like just different stuff. You know, the DIY stuff is really interesting, like, and just like the depth of all of those systems. But at the same time, anyone can pick it up and anyone can play. And like Amy and I, we share an island, so like,
Yeah.
you know, our houses are right beside each other, and like we'll go and we'll play. You know, one will be the leader and one will be the follower or whatever. She normally plays the leader. But it's like we work together to get everything done, you know, from like getting, you know, all these different things. But it's like it's something that we do together, and it's really cool. And like she'll play on her own and everything. Like she doesn't play a lot of games, but it's something that she's really enjoying. So yeah, I agree 100%. Animal Crossing is awesome.
And the fact that, you know, they keep doing seasonal and like almost monthly content to keep bringing you back to the game
Oh yeah.
speaks to the testament of how much they care about this franchise.
Oh yeah, there's so much to do, and you know, I just like every day there's new clothing options. Like I spend way too much money on clothing in the game. Like I've got outfits out the wazoo.
Yeah.
So anything else on Animal Crossing?
No, must say, because like I said, you played it way more than I did. So
Yeah, I love it. So if you got a Nintendo Switch, which just a little shout out, the Switch is the best selling console for 2020.
Yep, I remember seeing that. So
yeah, best selling console for 2020. A lot of that has to do with like the price, having the light version as well, and just like, you know, it's not just a kid's game, you know, game console. And you know, with PlayStation, Xbox having so many issues like creating consoles, their new consoles, it definitely had a very big advantage on that. But another highlight for me for 2020, and this is like, if Ghost wouldn't have been there, this would have been my game of the year.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Yep.
My God, that game is so good.
Yes.
Like it is like there have been several like remasters of the game, but this was a true remake of Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, and just the love and attention that they put into this game is amazing, because not only is it the levels, it's also the soundtrack that's in there. Every song that is from 1 and 2 is in there, plus songs that still fit but are newer songs and everything. Like there's a Machine Gun Kelly song in there or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you also get to like I went in and I turned off all the new songs. I was like, I don't want to hear any of these.
Right.
It's like I only want to hear the songs that I know from 1 and 2.
You went full nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
Childhood.
Oh yeah. And like just seeing the amount of detail that went into recreating every park, like it was mind-blowing. The gameplay was amazing. I thought I was way better at the game. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I thought I was way better at the game. I busted my butt so much, so much. Our friends over at Two Beards Play, Trey, took the first time that I streamed it and made a 23-minute compilation of me just falling. Like
That's
just me
great.
fall. Yeah. So you know you're loved when someone takes that long to just cut out every time you fall.
Right.
But just like the amount of stuff, and like you can go through and you create your own character, or you can play as Tony Hawk or any of the skaters that were in there originally and everything, bringing Jack Black in as the officer and everything. And like there's so much to the game, but it's like the same frustrations you had trying to get whatever it was, you still have those same frustrations 20 years later.
Right.
But it's still so amazing, guys. Like if you're a fan of any of the Tony Hawk games, like I loved getting to play through it, and like going and getting the high scores and just learning more and more about it. And the community around the game is very cool as well. That's something that I learned as well, is like I would stream it, and then people would come in and they'd give me suggestions on how to achieve, like, oh, you're trying to get the secret tape on this, try this move to be able to get a little bit further on that jump or whatever. Like just cool things like that.
Yeah, and just to touch on that too, right? Like the studio who did the remaster was Vicarious Visions, and if you're not familiar with them, they did the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy reboot, and I think they also that was Toys for Bob. Never mind. But yeah, they did, and the Crash Crash Nitro Racing as well remake. So they understand the properties, they understand the love, they understand the concept of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then they also took that and it's like, hey, we're gonna improve this, like not improve, but add more to it that makes sense for this game.
Yeah, and like it definitely felt like it was like, okay, this is the game, but it did, like, the controls were a little bit tighter than the the original and everything. But like, yeah, Vicarious Visions, like they are like the top of the top in their game. Them and Blue Point are really good about doing remakes and everything. And I just can't praise Tony Hawk's enough. And they've even like put more into the game where like different trials or whatever, like as it's been out and everything, they've done more updates to it. So that's awesome to me. So, and it's just proof that you can launch a game and it actually works.
Not naming names, obviously, but
Another highlight of 2020, Derek, what's one of yours?
So it's only because of when it came. Like it wasn't like the game itself, it is not so much like better than the previous iteration, but it was just that experiencing what it felt like on next gen. And that's going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla for me. Like I loved Odyssey, like loved it to death. Like I need to go back and play all the DLC for it, but I love the main story, like how the setting, the period, the time period with it. So Valhalla was like that next iteration. And this was by the people who have done Origins, which I know you thoroughly enjoyed before that. So they've had a pedigree of doing really great games. And so far I'm only like 35 hours into the game. Yeah. So I'm not too far, but the story, like just because I'm not that familiar with Viking and Norse mythology, like it's not there for me like Odyssey was, but gameplay is like right there. And this is like one of the first games like that with Miles Morales that I played on my PlayStation 5, and seeing that next gen difference, like the lack of loading screens, like the fast, like I wouldn't say the 60 frames per second, but like the better frame rate movement of that game, and like just how fluid everything feels on a next gen system was like all right, this feels next gen. Like going into PS4, like other than like just the better graphic resolutions and updates, it didn't feel next gen like when it for some of the games that first came out. Like with the this one is more like focusing on the technical aspects and like how a game is supposed to run. So this one felt like more like, all right, out the gate, this is next gen to me.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing, for the people that have that next gen console one of these days, sweet Lord. But like, if you've got the console, you want to experience experience that upgrade. You don't like, and that's something like with more modern times where we've seen like they've kind of started overlapping more and more. Like this generation is definitely more than it was with the PS4, PS3, Xbox One, and Xbox 360 and everything. But it's like you want to be able to fully experience that, and at this point it's kind of a limited thing. So that's awesome to like hear like it was like a huge step up from, you know, other experiences and everything. And like I've got Valhalla, but I haven't been able to jump into it. I want to finish Ghost before I touch it. So it's like
right.
It's like I'm going to finish one open world game at a time.
Yeah. So especially with the Ubisoft game, because you know they litter their maps with everything.
Oh yeah, I'm not 100% on their games. It's like no. Not my cup of tea. And I wish it was like family friendly and didn't have some stuff in the game, because I would totally play it. But you know, it is what it is.
They're getting better with some of their content, especially like adult theme stuff. So they've been like you could see it in Odyssey. Like there was a lot of the stuff was like censored out. So they're getting better, but they're still like, not there yet.
I don't know, man. Like when you open up Odyssey and like in the first like 2 seconds of the game, like actually launching, you're getting this huge statue with, you know, things in your face, and you're just like, okay. Another highlight for me, and it's a game that I haven't played a lot of, but I'm interested in going back and playing more of it, is actually Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, I know. So
which you gave me a copy of, so thank you for that, man. I liked it because like I know a lot of people are like, well, it's a Ubisoft game, which it has like a lot of the same, you know, engine kind of stuff where it's like, okay, you got to go to the top of this thing and you got to synchronize and all that. It's not exactly one for one for Assassin's Creed or anything, but it definitely has that kind of model. You've got to do the thing. It's like it's between like Assassin's Creed and Breath of the Wild. That's how a lot of people are comparing it and everything. And yes, it feels a lot like both of them. But the thing that it also has like some hints of God of War. I'm just going to say that has some hints of God of War. But the thing that's cool is the story that's going on. Like I'm playing on Switch, so like the graphics are a lot less than what it would be on the other consoles and everything. But the narration and the humor that is in the game is really funny. Like it's so well done. It's not cheesy, and it even like hints at like more like mythology and everything of like Greek and everything. Some stuff like you couldn't say like to kids and everything. But like it does like some hints of it, but it does it very tastefully. And it's like Prometheus like talking about like how Aphrodite was born, and I'm not going to say how it actually happened. And Zeus is like, oh yeah, this, and Prometheus is like, no, that's not how it happened. And he's like, what do you mean? And then you hear, he's like, what? Oh my God. Like it's those funny things like that. And like, you know, just like it has like, you play Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know how like they have like the temples and everything, you go in, it has like the puzzles. It has that as well, and Immortals and everything, but they're interesting and they're challenging. Like they're definitely like thought-provoking, and the powers that you get in the game are put to the test in those. You go down to like Tartarus and everything. So like I really enjoyed it. It's something that I want to go back to. I haven't put a ton of time into, other than the few streams that I've done. But like if a game like that can be made, like it's exciting that is a possibility.
Yes, exactly. And the fact that Ubisoft can keep their formula, but also breaking and not doing everything the same type of open world and like the same type of content, like, oh, guy with gun must kill people, or like guy with sword must kill people. And it's like, all right, they have some range to it, and they've shown it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, one quick highlight, because we're closing in on time and we got some stuff that we want to hit. So what's your last highlight of 2020, Derek?
Just seeing how much like the gaming industry tried to keep things normal when everyone was like, especially like during the spring and summer when lockdown was heavy, the fact that they understood like, hey, people need something to do at home, and the fact that they still gave them content and games to put out, like, yeah, obviously it wasn't as much as we would like to, but just to see that they still, like, they didn't let when everything was getting shut down, and like they still found a way to give us content and still like work safely from home, like just shouting out those developers, and like especially the ones that weren't like jerks about it, especially like we know some studios were. Um, so, but just that, yeah, and just, but that's more half one, I guess. But the other one, I guess, like gaming wise, to me was like, and I need to go play more of it, was Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you played the 2018 Spider-Man, like the highlight, like it kind of felt safe toward the end of that story without giving spoilers, but it still felt like an authentic Spider-Man story. And the best part was the traversal / combat, and they just added more onto it with Miles, like doing more parkour movements, and like more like made it feel like it wasn't just a reskinned Peter Parker with the movements. It felt more authentic to Miles and his setting. Again, the load screens, like I literally, when I booted that thing up, that was the first game I booted up because it was a Sony first party. I booted the thing up. I was at the home screen within like 3 seconds.
Wow.
3 to 5 seconds. Like it was like not, I wasn't bored long. Like I couldn't even check my phone. It was like, all right, and you're here.
Hey, that's big. That's big. Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to steal your PS5. I mean, get a PS5. All right, so those are our highlights. We'd love to hear your highlights down in the comments below, and we're gonna jump into a few news things that has happened over the last week. The first being big old Star Wars news, guys. Like, there's about to be a breakup, guys. There's about to be a breakup.
Yep. There's been rumblings for like the last year and a half, but now it's like this was like the first official, like, hey, we need to see other people.
they filed the paperwork, guys. They filed the paperwork. Star Wars is going to be moving away from EA. The EA contract ends in 2023, which they better give me another Fallen Order before this is over with.
Well, and to say that too, like, I don't know where I saw it. I don't remember which sides, but they did say it's like, hey, we're still going to let EA work on Star Wars games, but they won't be the only one. Like this is them taking a Marvel Studios approach and like, hey, let's send our IP to developers that make sense and that we know can do good things. So
and that's a whole conversation we can get in. But one of the big things that came out was they're going to start a Lucasfilm games brand. There's Lucasfilm Studios, like the Marvel Studios brand of games. But they have tapped Ubisoft developer Massive to make an open world Star Wars game. So that's very exciting.
If you're not familiar, for the several people that aren't living under a rock and don't know who Massive Entertainment is, they're the people who do The Division, which I thoroughly enjoy. Like I need to go finish Division 2, but I love Division 1. Like Division 2 was so much better, so they improved on so many different things from the first game. So them doing an open world Star Wars game, like, first of all, them doing a Star Wars game is great. Them doing an open world Star Wars game, because yes, Division is technically, you could kind of label it under MMO, but it is an open world online game.
Yeah.
Only thing I'll say, like, and I don't want to see, like, it's a good and it's a bad thing that I'll say, I don't want to see just the Star Wars game reskinned as Division. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely not.
They can have, like, I think the only thing, like, I don't know if they'll do online, like they just made the announcement like within this last week, so we don't even know what this game's going to be about, the time period or whatnot. The only thing I'll say that I want them to take is like that I wish kind of Fallen Order would have done a little bit more, like have like a loot system for that, to where like, hey, you can upgrade your lightsaber with different parts, or you can outfit your character that buff your stats. So that's the only thing I'll say that Division can carry over to this game.
Yeah, but at the same time, like with those type of games, like you can, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's nice to have games where it's like you know, I have a piece of gear and it's just cosmetic and I don't have to worry about, you know, the
Right.
game trying to get me to spend money in microtransactions or anything like that, or grinding to get better gear just to be able to take out something.
Right.
But at the same time, it is nice when you get something that is better. So it's kind of like that. Like they have to balance the system out for sure. And cosmetics can like fall in order and everything. Like I remember getting like different pieces to my lightsaber and everything and making it look really cool. Like that was really awesome to me, and like the ponchos and all of that, whatever.
Yeah.
But like with Division, like I'm hoping with this Star Wars game that it is not just like, okay, you're just this, you know what I mean? Like if it's just like, okay, you're all just
a nameless character.
Yeah. If you're, you know, if you're just this, don't make it like like a multiplayer game. Like make it a story-based game that is open world, because they also worked on a smaller Assassin's Creed game back in the day. It wasn't one of the main titles. It was like one of the, like the offshoots.
Well, one of the Chronicle ones, like the two. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like, it's like make it story-based. Like don't, like if we're just going to be no names or whatever, like I don't want that. I want something that is like deeper with the story and everything. If it is going to be multiplayer, it's going to be really hard to balance that if you're going to have people choosing, okay, I want to be a Jedi, well, oh, I want to be a trooper, or I want to be a sniper. Like it's going to be hard to balance it. So you're going to have to definitely find the right place to do it, because you think about BioWare's Star Wars The Old Republic, I still play it, but like it was hard to balance all of that, and it's an MMORPG, so like you're going to have to figure out a way to make everybody work together if you're going to make it exactly like The Division.
Right. And now one thing you just kind of spurred, the only way they can make it work as a multiplayer like the Division style game that would make it like feel like different, authentic, like make your characters feel different, because there's only so many ways you can dice up a Jedi, you know, without just being it look different, with just reskin with a different color lightsaber.
Yeah.
You have to do it bounty hunter style. Like you could do it to where it's like people can create their own different bounty hunters, because they have plenty of different weapons, different races, different, you know, methods of like different abilities. That's the only way you could make it work if they went that route.
Yeah. Like I could see them like bounty hunters would be the cooler way to do it, but it's like, oh, well, everybody is like a trooper. Like it. Ooh,
yeah, that's true.
Ooh, I just had an idea. And Massive, if you take it, it's my idea and you owe me money. It's based in the Clone Wars, and everybody's a clone.
Yeah. Like,
that would be
ironically enough, you know, I'm watching Clone Wars, the animated show right now, and you know, you see Rex, Cody, and like all these different ones. So yeah, that would make perfect sense too.
That would make perfect sense, because then it's like, okay, it's all like the same skill bases, but like even in the Division, you have people that are heavy gunners and snipers, and like that would be a way to do it. You could also do stormtroopers, but like clones would be really cool, and just like fill in more of that story. I know we've got a ton of that story, but you could make something really, really cool out of like that era, or you could fill in something with like the Empire or whatever, but that would be a really cool way of getting that in there. So moving on with some more Lucasfilm games, or whatever they're calling that thing, Bethesda is going to be making an Indiana Jones game.
Yeah, and this is a surprise. I forget, I've heard different studios like Machine Games, I've heard like different studios in Bethesda's umbrella worked on this, but the one name that's definitely attached to it, because I know it's not Bethesda proper, but Todd Howard is apparently helping to work on this game. And but he said, he came out, what was it, within the last couple days, and said yes, and opened his big mouth. But he said that's like, look, me working on Indiana Jones is not going to affect Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield. So he put that baby to bed real quick, you know. So he because he knew the backlash, because people were like, well, is this going to delay her? I want my Elder Scrolls. And it's like, look, man, I'm still working on it. I just want to just let you know that I'm involved with this too.
Yeah.
So
like from what I've heard is that it's going to be Machine Games, which is the developers that made
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein, yeah, they made Wolfenstein and all of that. So it'll be interesting, like the way they go about this game.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones is like, I think, a difficult property to deal with, because it's like it's Harrison Ford.
Yep.
And you also have Sean Connery in this universe and everything, but it's like, who he is and what he's capable of doing. I think if they do it, that would be interesting. Not necessarily like completely like Arkham style, but like how Arkham had like the detective mode and everything. Have more of the archaeological aspects of Indiana Jones instead of just like the shooting, the whip, and the driving and the fighting. Like, have like some depth to the gameplay, and like you're trying to find clues, you're trying to find this lost treasure and everything. I think that would be really awesome to see, because we don't really get that in any other Indiana Jones game.
Right. And see, this is the problem they're going to run into, right? Is because an Indiana Jones style game or games have already been done, and they're called Uncharted. Like and this is the problem with like Uncharted games are great, but if you're going to make the Uncharted games are based off of what Indiana Jones did and what Tomb Raider did, so they're going to run into an issue to where they're gonna fall on that sort. They're gonna pretty much face that scrutiny of, this is just a different reskinned Uncharted with a known character attached to it. And it's like, look, it's safe to like from my point of view, it's like, look, it's probably gonna be that way. But if they make it their own thing and they put their own twist on it, no one's gonna care.
Yeah, and I think if they do it right and it has a good story, that's going to be the main thing. They have a good story, I didn't even think about that. It's like you've got really good Tomb Raider games and even better Uncharted games that have come out since, like, the last Indiana Jones game was a Lego game.
Yeah,
and that's just
true.
And it was just retellings of the movies, which is a really good game. But it's like it's got to be a fresh story. There has to be deep mechanics to it, not like RPG, but like there's got to be like something more than just shooting, fighting, driving.
It's got to have something else to make it stand out.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about like Uncharted is like there was so much depth in like the storytelling and the characters that we've got to have that in this new Indiana Jones game. So I'm excited for it, and Massive's done a really good job with all the games that they've been handling. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And one last thing, it's ironic that they made this announcement because what happened back in August was Bethesda got bought up by Microsoft. So, and Microsoft has been, especially within the last year, buying up studios and wanting to put more emphasis on having a diverse first-party portfolio. And they see the Uncharted's, the Last of Us, the Ghost of Tsushima's, like, look, we need to start making games in that. And Phil Spencer's even said, like, look, I know we've done games with story that has multiplayer and focus more on multiplayer, but we also want to focus on that single-player narrative as well. And this is their first chance to try, that we know of anyway, right? Like to try and emulate that.
Yeah, and I'm excited for them. Like Microsoft is definitely making big waves right now, and has been doing those things. So I'm excited for it. Some other news in dates and possibilities and all of that. Hogwarts Legacy has been delayed to the year 2022. They tweeted out the other day that a little picture of Ollivanders and with a little message which reads, "We would like to thank the fans from around the world on the tremendous reaction to the announcement of Hogwarts Legacy from our Portkey Games label. Creating the best possible experience for all the Wizarding world and gaming fans is paramount to us, so we are giving the game the time it needs. Hogwarts Legacy will be released in 2022. And like I know I saw Cass Miller post in the Nerd Cave or comment on like you linking this article and everything, and it was like, we just started the year. Why you've got all this time and everything, but it's like you've got to think about what just happened at the end of 2020 with CD Projekt Red. Everybody is every developer, every publisher is looking at, I do not want to be like that. I do not want to fall into that. And we've seen other companies before CD Projekt Red. I'm thinking about Anthem and BioWare. You know, we think about Hello Games with No Man's Sky. You know, like there's been several, and like they've had different variations of that. But CD Projekt Red, literally, they didn't just like dip their toe into the abyss.
They cannonballed, belly flopped.
Like the whole thing is like in the bottom. And no one wants to be that next person because it's going to be even worse for whoever does it next. There's
especially
no doubt
if you
about it.
read all the interviews that Jason Schreier just posted about his talking with CD Projekt Red employees, like how that all debacle went down. And it's like, that's especially more evidence. It's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Yeah. But, you know, to touch on it too, you know, it is a good point of like, we just started the year, but, and if you, I know it's not a huge game because we mainly don't know what it is yet. But, you know, if you remember, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I posted a thing where Pragmata, that weird space game that Capcom's working on, wasn't even slated for this year. Like Hogwarts Legacy was slated for this year. So it being delayed till next year is at least viable. Pragmata was scheduled to be out next year, and they pushed it to 2023. And it's like, it's just January of 2021. Why are you worried about delaying it this far out at this point? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we? This goes back to like our age-old arguments. Like, why even put a date on it? But seeing that whole mess that happened back in December, it's like it is just even if it doesn't make sense this early, it's at least justified by saying it's like, look, we're not going to make that mistake. We might screw up, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's where everybody is. And, you know, we've said it, I don't know how many times. It's like, you know, don't announce a date if, you know, like don't announce a date. Like until you're ready, don't announce a date. Like I think about Fallout 4, like they announced it like right before it went out. Perfect timing. I'm fine with that. Like, yes, you want to build hype. You want to be able to get people's money to like, you know, to show like the stockholders and all of that. You got to please
the investors, you know, especially if you're at a big third party company.
But we also see how that can turn out now. It is like this CD Projekt Red Cyber 2020 is the case study now for what not to do. And and Hogwarts Legacy, like I think, you know, them delaying it's like, yeah, we're not going to be able to hit it because we're also dealing with working from home. People are trying to code at home, do all of these different things. It's like we're living in a different world at the moment, and hopefully people will be able to go more back in person and everything as, you know, hopefully all of this will get better. But it's like you are working from home trying to do what you were able to literally turn around to the person, you know, in the same, you know, room as you or the room over and like, hey, will you come look at this code that I'm doing? Will you come look at this art that I'm doing? You know, like it's a totally different workflow and process. So it's a lot harder than, you know, what we're thinking. Like, just imagine like your job. Okay. We've all had some sort of this. And it's like, it's uncomfortable when it's like, okay, for me to be able to communicate with anybody, it's either in Slack channels, through emails, or doing Zoom calls. And guess what everybody hates? Slack channels, emails, and Zoom calls. Like, it's, you know, it's not fun for anyone. And it's like they're also still trying to make something that is going to be great at the same time. So it's a lot harder than it was, but they're still trying to make something quality.
Which also, you know, that brings up the points like another studio that learned their lesson before stuff went bad. What was 343 Industries with Halo Infinite, like show that gameplay demo in August, like after the fact, like it looked good while running, but after the fact, like in the stills, and it's like y'all thought that was going to be ready in 3 months.
Yeah, so, and like they would have, like if they would have launched that thing, that like Halo is on such a precarious like place right now, that would have killed the franchise right then and there.
100%. I said the same thing when the day I saw the article that said, "Oh, it's coming out now, holiday of 2021." I'm like, good, because if it launched on launch day, it would have killed the franchise easily.
It would have been dead. So I'm glad people are seeing, it's like push things back if you need to, and don't fall into the thought process of crunch. And we'll probably have a whole video on that here soon. But guys, we hope that you're enjoying the show. We got one last thing we're going to talk about. Make sure to hit the like button, share it with somebody, and you can go support the Nerd Cave over at patreon.com/nerdcave. This last article, there's going to be a new studio in San Diego working on existing franchise. So this is a rumor. This is over at psu.com. So you can go check that out. All of these things are linked by our studious professor of gaming, Derek Daniel. The new San Diego-based development team established by Sony is working on existing franchise, according to the LinkedIn profile of Michael Mumbera, a former studio head and senior director at Visual Arts. This new studio that has been rumored to be working on a fresh entry in the world of Uncharted after creator Naughty Dog finished up the series in 2017's Uncharted Lost Legacy, which is a great DLC, guys. You should totally go play it. Sony hasn't announced anything official at this point, though. So we both can assume that it's going to be PS5 related and everything. So,
and and people were, just to touch on that too, this is not San Diego, the people who did MLB The Show. This is just a studio, like a new studio who hasn't had a name yet. So I don't know if this is built up internally at Sony, or this is just something like a new startup they just happen to acquire at the same time. But this is just a studio that happenstance to be in San Diego, California as well. So
yeah, I'm curious to see, like, if it is Uncharted, where could that possibly go? Is it Drake's daughter? Like, are we getting that story? Do we get, young Sully, like, before he meets Drake? Do we get more of Sam, in his adventures? There's a lot of things. I feel like they probably won't touch the cast that we've had, like the normal cast. I think we might be getting the daughter story. But
that's what Lost Legacy did. They kind of took two characters in that universe, one that had already been known, and then one that just showed up in like the last entry, numbered entry of Uncharted, and made a spin-off game from that. So you can make it work, like with at the risk of not sounding like, do the MCU style, right? But you could just do characters from that universe and focus on them.
Yeah, and I loved Lost Legacy. I thought it was a good way to bring in two characters that people enjoyed, and like if we even got a game with both of those. It's been a while since I've finished Lost Legacy, so I don't remember the ending of it, if whatever, but like I enjoyed those two characters working together, and like their dynamic and everything, because it wasn't like, oh, we're so simpatico. It was like out of necessity. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like I would love to see
for the greater good.
Yeah, for the greater good. For the children, Derek. For the children. But I would love to see that story or the kid. I think bringing Drake back and doing another story with him, just like because 4 wrapped up so perfectly. Like 100%. I don't think that's a good idea. So I think, doing something outside of Drake, other than his daughter, like, I think that would be a good way to like continue the franchise. If they're not working on Uncharted, what do you think they would work on?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Because like, just backtracking just to that for just a moment, because this goes back to a rumor like over a year ago that's saying like, Sony San Diego is possibly working on like the next Uncharted, so because Naughty Dog is so in depth with Last of Us at that time, right? But now this new rumor is like, okay, it's just, this is a studio in San Diego. But something I saw this morning, because I posted this yesterday, but something I saw this morning is it elaborated a little bit more on it, to where it's not just maybe Uncharted. They might be working on third-person action adventure games, and they're working on existing franchises. So we could get other iterations of like other games. Like I know Insomniac is working on a new Ratchet and Clank, but what about another Naughty Dog property that people have been clamoring for that we haven't gotten a new iteration, like Jak and Daxter, or like another one from Sucker Punch, maybe a new Infamous game, like on a new take on that. You know, and even like maybe it could be stuff like lesser, like maybe like not lesser known, but like lesser tier franchises that people like were like, it's okay, it's like a good B-rated one, like with Killzone, right? Because Guerrilla has openly said, yeah, we're done with Killzone. We're not touching that again. It's Horizon and then whatever we have after that. Like we're done with that. So
I was going to say Killzone, but you kept talking, and then there was another one that came up to mind, Resistance.
Yes, thank you. I forgot about that completely. So yes.
Yeah, Resistance, like that could be a possibility because I haven't had an entry in that in a long time.
Nope. The last time I think was the Vita.
Yeah. Long live the Vita. The Vita lives. But like I definitely think are you there?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, because if I froze on your end, you froze on mine, by the way.
Okay.
So
okay. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, like Resistance would be cool. Like I don't feel like Killzone is received well enough for like it to keep going, to be 100% honest. Like
yeah, I'm about to say it definitely doesn't have the mind share of these other titles we named. So it's just throwing it out there because when you say action adventure games, like it's pretty much what Sony's like whole plethora of games were on PS4, and at the end of PS3. So
hey, we could get God of War Ascension 2.
No.
Worst God of War ever.
Oh my god. It's like Metal Gear Solid, like that, like Ground Zeroes. It's like little piece of story that you didn't need, and then when you played it, it's like I don't care.
Like the gameplay was just so different than everything else, like the magic and everything, like it just did not feel good. But yeah. So there you go, guys. There is our highlights from 2020 and some news and everything. We hope that you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you want to see more of this kind of stuff, this kind of show and everything with me and Derek, you let us know. And
give us ideas for what we should call this.
Yes, we need a name. Shuhei Full of Grace is good, but I don't think many people would download it.
Many people would probably downvote because it was misleading title.
Yeah, it's like Shuhei. We just like put like a picture of Shuhei like in the corner and just smiling. Guys, we hope that you had an awesome one. If you want something covered, let us know as well, and make sure to check us out over on twitch.tv/Nerd Network and youtube.com/Nerd Network, where we're going to be posting all of this cool stuff, and we might even make this show a live stream one day. You never know when Derek quits his job and comes on full time.
Hopefully down the road.
All right, guys, we thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and follow. We'll see you on the next one. This has been Zach.
Derek.
Y'all have a blessed week.